I want everybody to see Curtis. All right. Curtis has been a math science teacher at Masters for a number of years. Then he moved to Ottawa and he has joined our Imaginal Design, instructional design engineering team, as I introduced him before. And excellent teacher. If you've gone to Masters website, see the robotics videos and all that, you'll see Curtis featured in that with his students. So let me just go back to sharing the screen. I just wanted everybody to see you, Curtis, as you share. And let me just go back to sharing the window.
Like Tom mentioned, our digital platform, Geenius, was designed to complement profound learning. This is the only place that we know of in the world where you have an educational system that has designed its own pedagogy as well as its own technology to deliver it. So it's a really unique experience that we're looking forward to students taking advantage of next year. And that's what students in the building at Masters have been taking advantage of, which is great. And what I'm going to be basically what I'm going to be going on to next is what Tom mentioned as the AKR system. It's a big fancy word, adaptive knowledge retention system, and it's really cool that Tom was able to patent this. It has a U.S. patent. It is protected. It's our own proprietary technology, and this really allows us to elevate what students are able to accomplish using our technology. So where does this all come from? Is the fact that whenever we learn something, the average person is going to lose the majority of it, 75% usually, within the first 48 hours. You know, you go to a big conference and you learn all this material, you're really excited, but then you get home a couple days later and you have all this maybe like binders left over or textbooks, but you don't remember anything that you learned. And this is scientifically proven, and I'll talk about that more later. And I want to show you how Tom has actually designed a whole system to overcome that. So, and this is all based off of research done all the way back in the 1800s on what was called the forgetting curve. Is that over time, you're going to forget on a logarithmic basis, a decaying rate of losing your memory in terms of what you've learned. But there is a proven method that the AKR system has, and it's like the bread and butter that you can use in Geenius in our digital system, is that we have built-in review cycles. So it'll automatically customize review cycles for students. And if you can just routinely be reviewing, it's actually going to slow that decay rate until eventually you can space out those review cycles and you will never forget it. The decay rate it never decays. And so we have that built into Geenius, and we call them key points. And I'm going to show you how that works. But in order for you to understand how it works, I want to show you where we get the key points from. So here you can see a bit of an analogy of a bucket being poured into. So in purple here would be just general knowledge, right? And so students, it's a poor analogy to think of a student as just like you pour knowledge into, but this really does show that it doesn't work. You know, most of the knowledge is not absorbed by students, and the knowledge that is absorbed, it's just lost quickly over time, just like a bucket with holes in the bottom. And so students have figured a way to cheat this system. They have just the night before a test, they fill the bucket up really quickly and it works for the test. But then a couple days later, that bucket drains out and you've forgotten the majority of it. So how this is going to work in Geenius, in our learning system, is that we have actually taken the entire curriculum from the government and we've put it into student-friendly language, and that's a general knowledge base. But then what we do is, instead of relying on memorizing every single fact that you possibly could, all the knowledge, what we do is we focus in on specific key points. And that's what you can see highlighted here in red, is we develop key points from that general knowledge base that are the core of what a student needs to be able to remember, and we embed that into the learning experience. And what we do here is we actively review using those key points. And so you can see, even though a student might be learning and the knowledge is not all getting absorbed, it's leaking out, we are constantly on a routine cycle having the student review those key points. And you can see that in red. That's our essential knowledge that is being poured in on a daily, weekly basis. And this actually produces really interesting results. So here you can see you start off with just the learning phase. You learn everything for the first time. Some of it sticks, some of it doesn't. You're going to forget some after the first day. But then after the second day, when you've started reviewing, you're actually putting those essential knowledge bits back in. And because this is based in research, you're actually going to slow the decay rate of losing that essential knowledge. And so as you progress over time, you'll notice more and more of the red is staying in a student's mind, and the purple is slowly decreasing until eventually you almost have 100% retention over an infinite amount of time, which is incredible. And we're just really proud that we have this as a feature that we can offer students, and it's really beneficial and something that we love for them to be able to use. And so how does this look in the learning experience? So right here, I have a diagram. I'm going to show you after this screen, I'm going to show you a live demonstration of how our learning platform works. But here, I just want to cover just the basics of what a learning adventure looks like. I've purposely chosen something without lots of fancy graphics and videos, interactive bits, just so I can show you kind of the key areas. So the first part here, number one, I have it labeled. That's your itinerary. That's on the left side of a learning adventure. And that kind of like your roadmap on everything that you're going to be doing. It might take a couple of days. It might take a few weeks, but this is generally the sequence of learning for one learning adventure. This isn't an expedition. This wouldn't be all of grade 10 science. This would be one unit of grade 10 science, right? So that's the first area. And you can see within that itinerary, you've got a second part labeled number 2. And those are with 3 key areas that set the context for learning. And we're really proud that all our teachers are trained in profound learning and able to design learning adventures that are all uniform, that contain these elements: a big idea, a driving question, and a scenario. These all set the stage, set the context. And this is based in neuroscience and the research that we've done, that if you can do these things, you're actually going to set up students for success and allow the learning to stick better. So after the big idea, driving question, and scenario, students can then work into the rest of their itinerary. And that's number 3 there. And you can see you've got all types of different things. Don't look at the specific words, but I just wanted to highlight the icons. So we've got a really great icon system with targets to show you different expectations you need to be able to meet. We've got check marks that show what you've completed. There are different colors to show partial completed. We've got stars to show different areas of assessment, so you can tell quickly what you're working on. On the far right, top right side, you can see your work wall. And that's basically kind of like a student's binder where all their work goes. So they can create new work, fresh work there. And that's where a teacher can see everything that they're working on. They have not just their work, but they also have their resources. So if they have like something that they're reading, but not actually like submitting for to be marked, they can have that in their resources as well. And then lastly, in the middle, you've got basically all the content that students are learning. And these 3 columns can kind of scroll all independently. So it's really nice and smooth, so you can navigate to where you want. But in the middle is right where students are really going to be interacting the most. And so you'll have different steps as you work through in a linear fashion usually, and you can go through your various different activities. And you can see right there, I've got highlighted a couple of things. I've got a star for assessment. That's where you can assess your learning. I've got a target for expectation, so you can see if you're hitting those benchmarks. And then lastly, I want to focus in on that key, and you can probably guess that key represents key points. And so when a student clicks complete, it brings up a little window that shows them a quick key point, 1 or 2 key points usually on that step. That is basically the essential learning. And a student is able to quickly identify if they know that question or not. And once they've stated whether they've gotten it right or not, that is put into the AKR system, and it builds into that review cycle whether they got it or not. And by assigning key points throughout a learning adventure, you can really get an idea of how much you know and how much you need to be reviewing to retain it to 100% efficiency, so it will never decay over time. So that's before we go into the next one here, I'm just going to actually take control of the screen here. So Tom, if you need to switch over or anything, but let me know if it's not showing for you. Okay, so you should be looking at the login screen right now. So every student in Imaginal Plus will get a login and a password, and you can. So this is my my test student, Murphy. And so this, what you're looking at here, these are all just different classes you can be in. So we're going to go into grade 9 online math and science. So you can see from Murphy's standpoint, they can go through a few different tabs up here. We're going to look at learning. But basically, you got your stream, which would be like your feed of like what assignments are due, things to review. Documents is where you keep all your work. But then under learning, this is where students spend most of their time. So this is where you would be looking at all your different learning adventures. So here you can see a few different ones for math and science. So right now I'm inside of that learning adventure called Timeless Laws. And you can see here, the center column is all the content that a student would work through to learn the material. On the left is the itinerary. These are all the different steps in your learning you would be going through, and you can see at a glance of where you're at. And then lastly, on the right is your work wall, and these are all your assignments. So that's generally what it looks like. And I'm going to show you, when we go back to the slideshow, a few key features, such as how to assess yourself on your learning and how teachers are going to be checking in on students as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing now. And Tom, you can go back to the main slideshow. So within a learning adventure, you saw those little star icons. So the stars represent opportunities for self-assessment. And that's a big part of being an Imaginal Plus, is being able to track your own learning and not just click complete, but actually assess whether you understood what you were learning or not. There's different degrees of understanding, right? Maybe you can do it a little bit or consistently or often, or you're beginning to master it, or you fully developed, you can teach someone, right? So we have a color coded system you can see in the top left. And these learning maps, we develop these maps that go with each learning adventure. They're connected to the curriculum. And it's all in student-friendly language. We've reworded everything so a student can clearly see what they're being asked to demonstrate. And they just click off what they know. And they'll be assessed a few times throughout a learning adventure so that over time you can see growth, which is really great. And when you see your depth of learning growing, that's really encouraging for a student, and they can actually identify where their gaps in learning are, where they're not growing, where they haven't reached mastery yet. And that allows them to go back and fill those gaps and come up with strategies so that they can create complete mastery. And that really is like one of the bedrocks of profound learning is ownership. And we really think that learning maps allow students to accomplish that. Now, learning maps aren't just for student benefit, it's for teachers as well. It allows us to monitor the classes, monitor students. And so while students in each class are self-assessing, from our side, we have a dashboard where we can see how students are doing, so we can target individual students that have gaps in their learning that need to be filled, and we can reach out to them and help as needed. We can also see from a class-wide perspective where holes are in certain topics. So if there's something in science that you can see a majority of kids aren't getting, you can go back and you can add more content in the learning adventure. You can schedule a workshop for students. You can focus in more on that when you have a lesson in review. Remember, this is hybrid, and this is also synchronous mixed with asynchronous. This isn't students just on their own. We have scheduled class times that we do meet together online as a group. So we can meet those students and the classes in those targeted areas. You can go to the next one. And this is all based out of what our R&D department has been developing for decades now. And it's all based in neuroscience. We've designed this entire technology system to allow not just students to learn well, but for teachers to design learning adventures that are really effective. And like Tom mentioned, is that in the last year, we've been bringing in new AI design tools to help teachers improve the efficiency that they're able to create really effective learning adventures. So it no longer takes a month to create a profound learning adventure. It only takes a week, because we can come up with new activities, review them, implement them much quicker than before. And that's all built in. And in the future, it's going to be even more exciting. We have concepts coming out for AI tutors to help give students ideas of where to guide them in Geenius and help them identify their learning gaps. And so we're really blessed to have a software development team that is constantly working at improving Geenius. You probably have seen in the top corner, it said Geenius 3.0. This is our third major iteration of the system. We don't just stick with one. We are constantly innovating. We are constantly reinventing what our school is going to be, because that is how society works. We need to just keep, we need to plan our own obsolescence, creating a better version of ourselves to meet those needs. And so really, we do feel that students are going to be having the most amazing experience next year because of what we can offer from the technology standpoint. Now, as you go to the last slide that I wanted to talk about here, one more, I think, Tom. All of these learning adventures, they're all based in an expedition, a course, and they all thread together through something that's even greater than the academics of the course. Whether it's math, science, or humanities, we have Christian integration built into each of these learning adventures, and the technology connects to that too. When a student is assessing their own learning, they're also able to assess where they're at with God. When you see those big rocks that Marcy had talked about, identity, service, relationships, wisdom, all of those, we have those built right into Geenius, intentionally designed with the learning adventure, so that as a student goes, they can see where their faith is growing. There's activities that specifically connect to those big rocks, as well as to the learning activities themselves, so that it's not just academics they're getting in a learning adventure on Geenius, they're actually growing spiritually as well. So we're really excited that this is a complete holistic solution to meeting the next generation of needs for online learning and on-site learning. And Imaginal Plus just really offers that hybrid solution, encapsulates this all together. And speaking of hybrid, I'm going to be turning it over to Jeff next, who's really going to be speaking to how we're going to be taking that hybrid aspect of Imaginal Plus and bringing it into the site-based program with Imaginal Design.